So you've talked a lot about, especially in your books, about how this stuff takes time. My question is, how long do you give this content strategy before you give up, or before you change directions or try something new?
Well, I think it depends. There's not a, like, after 3 months you know or not, but I think it's part of that strategy when you're figuring out the content strategy, when you're figuring out what we're going to do over the next 3, 6, 12 months. Part of that is you have to put in those milestones of where you're going to review. You know, if we don't hit X number of views or X number of signups by week 8 or week 12, whatever it is, it's different for everybody. Then you have to plan that up front. I think it's, figuring out measurable goals of, if we need to hit this, because otherwise, the cool thing about the world that we live in is it can be organic, it can change, you can evolve. It's not like you've rented studio space for 6 months, or maybe you have, but make sure you have your milestones set then, but you can change and evolve. And but you do have to realize, it's a key thing that people don't pay attention to, is you do have to realize sometimes you do have to quit. Sometimes it's not working. Sometimes you have to, and that's hard.
That's what I want to know. I want you to tell me a definitive, give me a time no. I know you can't do that.
You can't, and some people will tell you, 3 months if you haven't gotten there, but I don't think, because it takes, I wish it was that easy.
So what are some of the identifiers, right? What are some of the milestones, the markers, the criteria to know whether or not you should cut bait or move forward?
Again, it depends on your campaign. If you're doing like buzz and awareness building, like launching a product, then it's usually measured on a certain number of signups or opting in to be notified when the product launches. If you're trying to raise money, perhaps it's a certain dollar, the Kickstarter, Indiegogo mentality of we need to raise $100,000 or it's not successful. On the flip side, if it's something like a video show, then you're obviously measuring views and shares, or subscription. I know now with YouTube and everything, people are trying to focus on the subscriber numbers. Yeah. It's different for every platform, depends on, me writing books, I judge it based on how many books being sold. If my next book sells 5 copies, probably not going to write another book maybe, but my publisher's not going to want me to either.
I think that's really smart, and I'm really glad you said that. I feel actually more comfortable you said that. Because I know there's a lot of CEOs or CFOs that are pressing their marketing people or the salespeople or the content folks saying, hey, you got to produce, and it's just based on a sole ROI calculation. And it's not just about that.
No.
It's several different, what they say, key performance indicators or objectives or goals. You've got to come up with those in advance and then measure the performance against those individual goals. And it could be, sentiment. It could be likes or shares, it could be engagement on the blog, it could be number of books sold, but the message is several different things.
Right, and then that's very true, and it totally depends on the campaign. I mean, I did a lot of entertainment campaigns, and where we're launching a new television show, and we're doing the marketing for that. Well, how do you measure success? We used to always, like, one of our key things was we would take a look at the conversation happening, and anybody can do this with anything. Go out to Google or Bing, whichever one you want, and you do a search on the product or the television show or the company, see how many mentions there are. And then you run this campaign, and our goal was, raise it by 10% or 20%, whatever. And then you can go look at the end of the campaign, and are people talking about this more? Is there more conversation? Yeah. It's not the true traditional ROI as it used to be, but you can't, having those people talk about it, especially when we were doing like a brand new show that had never been seen before, there was no conversation. Yeah. We could really track, well, look, there was nothing, we launched, all of a sudden now everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, and I think the marketing folks out there can go into the meeting with, whoever you're reporting to and say, what would we consider a win?
Exactly.
Right, like how, there's several different ways to measure it anyway. I want to shift gears just a little bit.